The march was marked by mixing between former slave owners and freed slaves. There were also slogans criticizing the wrongs committed against the Haratins. The gathering also had support from many politicians who participated.
Our Haratin brothers must be integrated socially. This is definitely linked to the question of poverty.
But not all Haratins agreed with the demonstration. The president of the IRA, an anti-slavery NGO, Biram ul-Da, is the holder of a UN Prize for Human Rights, and he was boycotting. He criticized the Manifesto Organizing Committee for allegedly bending to government conditions.
Opposition forces and civil society organizations have denounced supporters of the incumbent president Denis Sassou Nguesso for supporting his bid for a third presidential mandate. The constitution bans the Congolese president, who has already served 2 terms, from seeking another one. We have more in the CFI report.
And Brazzaville is considered to be the stronghold of the Congolese opposition. Until the beginning of 2000s, all the men gathered in this room had taken up arms to fight against the regime of President Sassou Nguesso, who returned to power in 1997 after a deadly civil war. Over the weekend, the government minister was present to warm up the crowd.
Are you ready to change the Constitution?
Changing the Constitution to allow the outgoing president, who has reached the age limit, to seek a third term that the current Constitution does not allow him to.
There is no reason for an official document which recognizes the right of every citizen to be elected and re-elected to be replaced by another document which limits these rights due to the number of terms served or due to age. I think is a problem.
Congolese civil society and opposition forces denounce what they see as a grotesque move orchestrated by the regime.
All these manipulations really have one goal: allowing the president to run for a third term, which is not allowed by law and is banned by the Constitution. The Constitution even goes further to ban the revision of this measure. The president is elected for 2 terms and he is no longer eligible. He has already served his 2 terms and must accept the consequences.
The regime's supporters are determined. They are calling on the population to get mobilized to make sure the president has the possibility to run for a third term in the 2016 presidential elections.
An explosion at a state-owned refinery located on the outskirts of the Ghanaian capital, Accra, has killed at least 1 person and destroyed 3 buildings. A United Nations Human Rights Chief, Navi Pillay, has accused the South Sudanese government and rebels loyal to the former vice president of recruiting 900 child soldiers. For more of these stories and others, we go with the CFI report.
United Nations Human Rights Chief Navi Pillay met with the President of Sudan, Salva Kiir, and rebel leader Riek Machar on Tuesday. Navi Pillay was surprised by the apparent lack of concern on the part of South Sudan's leaders in the face of a threat of famine for hundreds of thousands of people. Navi Pillay also condemned the recruitment of 9,000 child soldiers by both the government and rebels. In Ghana, an explosion in an oil refinery took place Tuesday on the outskirts of the capital and left at least 1 person dead. 3 buildings were destroyed. The state-owned refinery was shut down for annual maintenance at the time of the explosion. French President François Hollande hosted a visit from Tunisia's Prime Minister Mehdi Diouma Tuesday. The 2 leaders discussed security in Tunisia's south, new investments, and the organization of elections in Tunisia at the end of this year. Mehdi Diouma invited French businesses to invest in Tunisia, presenting his country as an excellent foothold for opportunities in Arab and African countries. There are protests in Burkina Faso's capital Ouagadougou against long-standing chronic electricity cuts. Residents in Ouagadougou find themselves facing blackouts during peak hours because of a shortage of production. The cuts, which can last up to 6 hours, are hitting residents of the capital and Burkina's second largest city, Bob Dialasso.
This is a problem caused by bad government and bad city management. After our investigations, we cannot understand why generators are not fueled and why they don't work.
The demonstration was organized by a citizens' movement that was started by two performers who say they want to sweep out the country's bad government.
We now take our second break. Stay tuned.
mooy dikmal si ñooni neen la di programme bi ngeen soppa taamal ko seen boppa ñooy màggal si juróomi at si dimanche bi ñooy dikmal si wala tombeek ñeenti fan ci weeri mai ci Paradise Hotel ci ñeenti waxtu yi si ngoon bés bi nag dina leen fa defal waxtaan yu am solo jëmale ko ci ndaw ñi ak bennoo ñooni neen waaye dama ne bés bi neex na ba noppi ndax rakkaajo ak yeneen groupe dinañ fa nekk ngir bégal askan gi te it amu ci loolu rek de ndax góob gari tamit dinañ fa def théâtre yu am solo waaye dama ne mbir mi neex na ba noppi ndax ñooni neen la dinañ joxe ay award muy neexal yu duuf yi ñooy njukkal ñi nga xam ne ñoom nañ ràññee seeni taxawaay ci biir réew mi te it njiiti réew mi His Excellency Cheikh Professeur Alhaji Dr Yahya AJJ Jammeh fas yéene naa teewee bés bi bem jeex tàkk kon dama ne àndalee naka ñooni neen la ak Gamsel yaay borom ci bés bu màggal bii nii kon bu ko kenn rate man naka maa nga nele ku ma fa dëkkaat ne ma mas.
And before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of the day's top stories. Bumpy roads and pitch darkness are said to be a thing of the past in Kiang as President Jammeh pledged to implement landmark development projects in that part of rural Gambia. Government has committed $30 million to the construction of access roads, bridges and causeways in close to a dozen locations spread across the Gambia. Opponents of President Denis Sassou Nguesso's reported bid to seek a third presidential term have been slamming ruling party stalwarts for supporting the move outlawed by the Constitution. And United Nations Human Rights Chief Navi Pillay has accused the warring parties in South Sudan of enlisting child soldiers. That was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us.
Minister